In this demo, we will be looking at how to build a chatbot in Copilot Studio and integrate that chatbot onto the Power Apps and provide access to the end users in a Power App UI experience. The solution that's used to build this demo are, of course, Copilot Studio, which uses Gen AI prompts solutions at the backend, and that would help to build a chatbot in Copilot Studio. And then we would use the integration methods in Power Apps to bring the chatbot experience in Power Apps. Now you could host the chatbot built in Copilot Studio in a website, in Teams, in other various channels. In this case, I'll just quickly show you how to plug that into Power Apps for business users to use that. And this is one way of building the engine for Q&As and to find the stocks and the latest offers and stuffs like that in a retail industry. It's targeted for a B2C scenario where an end customer interacts with that retail store. It could be an online store or a physical store, as long as you could query the data sets that's available either through their website or through an API or through a document or storage data sources. This use case can be extended not only for retail market but for various other markets as well and industries where they need to interact with potential customers. Plus, it could also be used internally within your organization. For example, the chatbot could be a potential in terms of a supply chain team talking to the warehouse team, and and likewise within your own company to understand the stock levels, to understand the shipment details, customer queries, and so on and so forth. So that's one thing that you could think of in a retail industry. Besides that, it cuts across HR, finance, marketing, sales, operations, customer service, and various other verticals. For this demo, we're going to stick to a B2C scenario in a retail industry. So I'm in Power Apps, and as you can see here on the left side, the chatbot built on Copilot Studio is loaded. This is not Copilot. This is a chatbot built in Copilot Studio, which has been integrated in Power Apps. And I'll show you how it was built in Copilot Studio, as well as how to integrate the chatbot built on Copilot Studio onto Power Apps. So we are going to query a few of these retail outlets. For example, Fair Price, Cold Storage, Lazada, Shenzhen, and others. So it's a one place where a user can query about the product sold and various other details. I'm naming it or calling it as Supermarket Agent. And let's get started with asking a few questions and see, how the Gen AI at the back end brings those data to the end user. I'll start with, we want to start with offers that's available so that we can go for quick shopping. This prompt is pretty basic. You're better off asking it in a better way. But for the demo, I'm just sticking it to a few words. Otherwise, I have to type it in a much detailed way. For example, can you please list down the latest offers at cold storage for the week of this month, this year, and so on? And that's another example of how a good prompt is. I wouldn't say this is a bad prompt, but it's definitely not a good prompt. So, anyway, so the chatbot powered by AI has provided us the details based on the prompt that I texted in. And it also gives a reference to the site where the offers is available, where you could go in and buy. And this is kind of useful. Just having this text wouldn't really help users. So it actually gives that insights. As you can see, these two URLs are different, and it goes and grabs those things for you to quickly go and take a look in in order if you want to, right? We can ask a few more questions and then we will jump into how this was built. We wanted to ask, you know, is there any discounts that's available as well for a particular product? And let's do that. So in this prompt, I've confused the system by asking a question for a discount and offer that itself is redundant, plus a product name, plus two other various stores. The better way of asking this is just asking for please provide fruits in. So it's not taking fair price as a retail store because, and this is the challenge, when you build the AI solution, fair price is not a retail store for the system. It just assumes that fair is fair and price is the cost. Now, if I ask the same question for cold storage, the system understands that cold storage is a retail shop. Not that it has to understand that it is cold and stored in a separate way, but that's how the model at the back end is being trained. And this is an option where the the user who builds a chatbot of this type have to be careful about how to build it and train the bot to understand what is fair price. And I did this on purpose so that you could have a look at both sides of the usages, right? And as you can see here at cold storage, it picks up a whole lot of details and it gives you, of various types of fruits and the discounts that's available. And it also gives the link where you could go and directly order that particular fruit or a product. And it also gives you other details in terms of, the availability and stuff like that. Now we could also ask, if there's a stock in this particular store on that particular product. However, we are only querying the the external sites or the retail site of that particular customer or the company, like cloud storage in this case. We're not querying their inventory, right? So we can give it a try. For example, do they have lemon in stock? So it says, yes, cold storage has lemon in stock, but it will tell you their stock level is like 1500 and it's going to run off in a day's time. And that is where you could extend this bot for internal purpose of managing the stocks, inventory, warehouse, and stuff like that, which I said before. But you need to connect to their inventory data sources. In this case, we are not connected to their inventory data sources, but we're connected to their external coldstorage.com, if you will. And if you click on this, it will take you to the page where you could buy the lemon exactly where you have to, right? Which is neat, kind of. So we'll have two more questions, and then I want to quickly show you how this was built in the back end. So we can ask for, where's the nearest cold storage store? And while it's searching for it, I can also say I live near Outram Park, and it would give you those, locations and directions and sites and references that you could go. Now it's picking the Singapore website because in the data sources have included the Singapore website, but of course you could build the way you want to. And we will stop the Q&A session here. Of course, you would have got the sense of the purpose of this chatbot, and you could relate this for many other use cases that you could build in the future. So we will say thank you for now here, and then move on to the back end how it was built. So I'm in the edit mode of the Power Apps, so it's easy for me to quickly jump into the app and show you how it was built. Now, before we get into the app detail, it's just a couple of pages, and what is important here is embedding the chatbot into the Power Apps. Just make it a little bit, larger. So all you have to do is input or insert the chatbot item here. In the older version, you would need to manually key in the schema of that chatbot. But in the latest version, if you're in the US tenant, you just have to pick and choose the chatbot once you have the chatbot in that particular environment. And I'll show you where to pick this detail. And this is all you have to do in Power Apps. Of course, you could have a nice UI and logos and stuff like that. And pretty much that's all you have to do. So the core engine is in Copilot Studio, which is what we will have a look at. And this is my Copilot Studio homepage, and I have a few bots built in here. And this is the one that we've embedded onto the Power Apps, and we saw those experiences as well. There's a whole lot of things that people can do. Uh, we would touch upon those important ones, and then there is plugin actions that you could integrate, which is not part of the scope for this demo. So if you come to the Copilot details, if you click on Advanced, and this is where you would get the schema of that particular chatbot. And you have to copy this in the past, but now you don't have to, as long as your environment has that bot. And then if you build a Power Apps, it automatically, displays this particular environment ID and schema for you to do. If it doesn't, you can copy paste that and then integrate that. And here's the environment ID and here's the schema name, which is what you saw here in this bot. Now, you could pretty much do those actions here itself in terms of asking the Q&As, which we did, but I kind of felt that, giving access for a user in a Copilot Studio is pretty much not that cool. So that's the idea why I kind of integrated the chatbot onto the Power Apps, and you can just share this Power Apps to the users. And we have used the generative AI tools. As you can see, it's a premium offering, and you need to have a paid subscription. And you were looking at those data that's been pulled out during the chat session, and it is coming from these places. You can include 4 external websites, and you could include 1 internal website, for example, a SharePoint portal with a document library in it, or a data sets or list in it. Plus, you could upload as much as files in here, but make sure that each of these files are not more than 3 MB in size. And these are the data that you could input. And the chatbot would query not only from the URL and the website to return the result, but it would also bring in the data it would pull in the data from the data sources that you uploaded. And this is where you could, if you are managing this for like stock inventory Q&A with end user, you could load those inventory details as well. So the plugins uses the dynamic chaining, which is out of the scope, so I wouldn't go there. And channel is another key thing, and you could integrate the chatbot to a Microsoft Copilot in modern workplace space. You could move that to Teams as well. And you could also integrate it to various other channels like Facebook's and demo website and any third-party websites and stuff like that. These are disabled because I'm using an authentication which is different in nature. So if you go to security and if you change that, you would be able to share and with the other channels as well. There's quite a lot of things that you could do. This is only a level 100 example, if you will. One other thing that's interesting here is you could change the localization or have multilingual language Q&A for the users. In this case, that by default is in English, but I've also downloaded another language pack, which is Italian. And you could download as much as language pack that's available here. If you click on add languages, and you would have these listed. And I believe this list would get more in the near future as and when the product releases are happening. You can't just select and then assume that the the languages would be turned on. You still would have to download that localization. For example, I do have German here, and you can come here and select this and change it to German. You can see this particular thing here changes to the German language. However, you still have to download this particular JSON file, which is a localization file, and then upload that after you have verified, validated the localization. It's a bit of a work just to avoid a wrong interpretation of the letters and text that's been typed. So you have to download it, edit it, and do a course correction, and then browse, and then upload that JSON file back, and then do the setup again. And once you set this up here, you could change the language mode the way you want it to display. I'm not going to go ahead and keep chatting here on the Copilot Studio. We had that experience already in the Power App, and that would be the end of this particular demo. I hope this was useful. Thank you.